Walks of Litchfield, hear the band play, wasn't nothing within prettier than that band music in them days. And all the old soldiers marching along, they'd go to the cemeteries and they'd put flags on all the soldiers' graves that was buried in that cemetery. They'd go from one cemetery to the other. That'd go on for a whole day.
And then you go back home, huh?
Then we'd go back home.
You remember the time that Bill Wise put he came down and Pa shot the duck?
Oh, Bill at our place. They lived in Ottawa, and they come up to our place on the farm. You remember that, Marilyn, when we lived on the farm? In the brick house out by Platteville. And Bill brought some decoys up and slipped them out in the yard and put them out there, 3-4 of them. And pretty soon he says, Dan, come here and look out the kitchen window. Said, here's some ducks out here. Get your gun. Dan looked out and he said, well, wait till I get my gun. He went and got the gun. He was going to go out and shoot them, and Bill got to laughing then, and he caught on that they was just old decoys. So we had a big laugh about that.
How about Pa talking to the colored man?
Oh, yeah. We always, the old colored man come down from Joliet, buy junk. Every year he'd come down there, and Dan would have a little pile of junk out in the yard piled up for him. So this time he come down, and they sit out there on the old shade tree, and I'd look out there once in a while, and there they sit just a talking, having a good time. And after the old colored man left, Dan come in the house, and he come his laughing, and he said, Ollie, you know what I done a while ago? And I said, what? He said, we was talking about different things, me and the old nigger, he called him. And he said, you know, the old nigger said to Dan, said, Mr. Salzman, said, I bet you have been a hard-working man. And Dan said, yes, sir, I've just worked like a nigger. And they both got to laughing then. And he never thought about him being a nigger, but he says, oh, yeah, he said, I just always worked like a nigger. So we had a big laugh about that. Think about a lot of things that Pa used to do, so many funny things. You remember how you kids used to learn to ride on old Daisy? All of the children and the grandchildren learned to ride horseback on old Daisy. Then when it come time to sell her, why, she got so old she wasn't no good to work. And the man was going to come and get her, and we couldn't stay at home. We left that afternoon because we didn't want the man to come and get old Daisy and take her off while we was there.
How about the big nose and point your finger?
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you a good one. This is for the kids now. You know, people's always saying things about each other and talking about somebody. So this feller said, now listen, he said, before you point your finger at me, he said, you clean your fingers good. That meant to be all right yourself before you took spite out on somebody else and point your finger at them. And then Jack Bevel, he was a boy that was raised in our neighborhood. One time he was crossing Bear Creek. We had a water gap. A water gap is something built out of rails and logs across the creek to walk on, get across the creek that way. So Jack was down crawling on on this thing. He was crawling across the creek. And Charlie Bradley was standing there, and he said, hollered at Jack, and he said, "Jack, is it fordable?" Jack said, "I don't know if it's fordable or not, but it's crawlable." He was crawled across.
He's probably crawling himself.
Mom, did you tell about, did you tell the one about the, that guy that had the big nose?
Yeah.
Or did
Well,
you tell
that was Jack, too.
Okay, now,
And
Mom, you can tell.
Then Jack, somebody said, "Jack, how come you have such a big nose?" He said, "Well, I always kept my nose out of other people's business and give it good room to grow." You couldn't get ahead of Jack, no matter what you said. He'd have an answer for you.
How about Pa in the wrong car uptown Morse?
Oh, yeah, we went to Morse one day from when we was out on the farm, and one Saturday afternoon, so always when we got in town, why, every time Dan come along and seen me on the street or anywhere, he'd say, "I'm ready to go home now." And so this time, why, he seen me on the street, and he said, "Are you ready to go?" "I'm ready to go. I'm going whether you go or not." And I said, "Well, just go on then." And everybody was looking at him. So then pretty soon I went on about my business to get whatever I wanted. So then we got in the car and started home, and Dan said, "You know what I done?" He said, I was looking all over for you, and he said, "I went out and I seen my car sitting there. I seen you sitting there in it, and I thought, well, you was ready to go home, so I just crawled in the car, and I said, where in the dickens you been all this time?" And this woman is another woman, it wasn't me. She says, "I've been right here." He says, "You ain't no such a thing." Said, "I was right here," and said, "You never have been in this car." And he looked up and he got in the car and sat down by her, and then he looked at her and he said, "Oh," he said, "I guess I'm mistaken. He got in the wrong car." This woman, she just waved her hand and said, "That's a man for you." And we never did know who this woman was.
Yeah, but Mom, you know, the worst part of it was, but Marilyn, you know yourself, and Woody too, that Pa said a whole lot more than that, because he jumped all over Mom, you know, "Where in the devil and Tom Walker have you been anyway?" And you know how he talked, and so he come.
"You old fool."
Yeah, he said, "You old fool," you said, "Where have you been? I've been waiting for you all day," and I don't know what all he said, because anyway,
To that woman.
Yeah, to the woman, see, because he came in a couple days later, and he was telling me the whole story about it. He said, "I just went on to her and just said everything to her," and said, "I thought it was Ollie," and said, "I thought funny it was that she wasn't answering me," said, "She never said a word back to me." And said after a while he looked over, he said, "I looked over," and he said, "There it wasn't Ollie at all," said, "It was some other woman." He said, "It just nearly killed me." He said, "I never will get over that." He said, "I was in the wrong car." And he said, "Now, Pearl," he said, don't want you to tell nobody this." I could just hear him, you know, "Don't you dare to tell nobody about this, Pearl." He had a half silly grin on his face, and I says, "I won't, Pa." I said, the only ones I'll tell is everybody that I see." And I bet I did, too. I've told that a dozen times on him. Then about the time that Bill Wise came up, Mom, and
Oh, yeah.
told him there was a...
Told that.
Oh, did you tell about the duck in the tree?
Yeah. No, they's on the
It
ground.
was on the ground. But
Oh,
Pa, you know,
I said he put a decoy up in the
Yeah.
tree.
No, it was on the
No,
ground.
they was on the
But
ground.
We were
Just like
there.
the
Oh,
duck.
was you there?
Yeah, but Pa got his gun up in the window and aimed up to the window. He was going to shoot through the window.
Through the glass?
No.
Oh,
he-
through the
window-
screen?
The screen. Didn't know.
Of course, that just tickled Bill Wise to death. There was something else on that. Did you tell about what Freddie was telling Mom about how Grandma used to take her apples and everything and dig a hole in the yard. Apples and
That's a long story. Them days we didn't have no basements or cellars, what we called them. And my mother would, every winter, she'd dig a hole in the garden, great big hole, and then she'd put straw around in there, grass or whatever she got a hold of, to lay the stuff on. Then she'd put a bunch of apples in, and potatoes, cabbage. I don't know what all she'd have in there, and it would be so good when you opened it up through the winter.
I was going to say,
And,
you just open that up in the wintertime and...
Then she'd cover that all up with the ground, covered up, and then she'd have straw on top of it. And then in the wintertime, she'd just go out there and make a little hole where she could reach in and get what she wanted, and then cover it back up. And there wasn't nothing any better than that cabbage and potatoes and apples and everything she put in there that winter. It stayed good all winter.
Yeah, Freddie
People
was
don't
telling
know
about that.
Freddie said he could remember that. I didn't think he could.
Marilyn, if you noticed there when Mom said potatoes, you know she said potatoes? You remember when you was about 5 years old and you said to her one time, said, Grandma, how come you can't say window and pillow? And Mom turned around and said, what do you mean? She says, well, say it, Grandma. And Mom turned around and said, well, I can say pillar and window. And that just tickled Marilyn. Because she always laughed about that.
Yeah.
Halley, can you think of anything else?
Well, she couldn't tell about Uncle Riley.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's see if there's enough room on there.
About who?
About Uncle Riley? I don't know whether
That's
there's...
kind of a sad thing to be telling.
but...
What was it?
Well, she wanted you to tell about Uncle Riley when he went to... about Grandma Decker going and getting the governor and that, you know. But I don't know whether there's time on that or not. I've got another tape that we could tell about that. What was Judy said, Halley, about Pa?
Oh, you remember the time that they had the ball team, and Pa always loved to play ball, and they had this team?
Well, we had a picture. We had that picture of Pa playing, but I don't know
Yeah,
what
they
happened
was...
to it. How old was Pa, Mom?
Oh, that was when Halley was a baby.
I was just a little thing.
Halley was just a little baby, and us women would go over and watch them play ball every Sunday afternoon. And they's all playing ball, and I was sitting on the ground with Halley in my lap, and she was just, I don't know how old she was, about 3 months old. And all at once the ball come just right close to Hallie's head, just like a little bit, hitting her in the head. I would never go back no more.
Maybe it did.
I would never go to the ball games no more, but every Sunday they'd go over there and play ball.
Yeah, but it was a great big team is what we're trying to say, Mom.
What did they call it? What did they call that ball team?
Well, I don't know what they called it on, just called a ball game, and they'd all meet over there every Sunday and play about.
What did Pa, you remember what?
He was catcher.
He was catcher?
Uh-huh.
Well, it must have been in that picture, it must have been 25, 35 of them.
Yeah, I had the picture of all of them. I don't know who I gave that to.
It was a regular ball team.
Yeah. He used to play ball all the time. He liked to play ball. They'd go far and near and play ball against each other and have a lot of fun.
You remember the time that Pa, I was 10 years old, and Pa was on a big load of oats. You know, they had the hay rack stacked with oats. They were going to thrash. Shocks of oats. And that turned over, and he fell on his back. Oh, I'm telling you how he suffered, and of course they didn't even take.
He broke his arm.
Well, he didn't break his arm. He broke his back about and everything.
Well, he broke his arm.
But he's in bed for I don't know, and just suffer away.
They brought him
no
home.
No medicine, no nothing.
That's when we lived in Cornell, Illinois.
I don't see how people live.
And
I don't need it.
Here they brought him home, and here I didn't know a thing about it. Here they come carrying him in, and he was just nearly killed. He's in.
Well, he fell off.
Bed.
It was a hay rack.
He fell off in the hay rack full of hay,
That
not hay, but oats. they was threshing, and he was hauling oats in to the thresh machine.
You never had any, probably never even had aspirins for...
We had the doctor with him. We called the doctor, and he came.
Yeah, but I said...
That's when Pearl was a baby.
Yeah, but look how long he lay there. He
Yeah.
couldn't even talk or nothing.
No. he
Nowadays
nearly
you
killed.
go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Them are terrible days.
Yeah.
Way back then.
I think back then never even hardly had aspirins or anything else in the days.
That's when we
Pearl.
But-
lived at Cornell, and